Have you ever run your hand along a brand new tire and felt those tiny rubber spikes poking out from the surface? They almost look like little bristles or whiskers, sticking out awkwardly, as if the tire forgot to shave before leaving the factory. Most of us notice them once, maybe wonder about them for a second, and then completely forget they exist. But what exactly are they? Are they part of the tire's design? Do they help with traction, stability, or braking? Or are they just harmless leftovers from the manufacturing process? Today, we're going to zoom in on those tiny nubs and uncover what they really are. Because as small and insignificant as they seem, they reveal a surprisingly fascinating story about how modern tires are made, right here on History of Simple Things. To understand those tiny nubs, we need to briefly look at how tires evolved. The first practical pneumatic tire was patented in 1888 by John Boyd Dunlop, originally for bicycles. His air-filled rubber tire dramatically improved comfort compared to solid rubber wheels. Soon after, automobiles adopted the same concept. By the early 20th century, companies like Goodyear and Michelin were refining tire construction, moving from simple rubber tubes to reinforced designs using fabric and later steel belts. Tire manufacturing became a highly engineered process, involving layers of rubber compounds, textile cords, steel belts, and precision molding. As tire molds became more complex to accommodate tread patterns and sidewall lettering, small manufacturing details like venting trapped air became critical. And that's where our tiny nubs enter the story. Modern tires aren't just molded lumps of rubber. They're built in layers. First, manufacturers assemble the inner liner, which keeps air from leaking. Then come layers of fabric cords and steel belts for strength. Finally, thick rubber tread and sidewall compounds are added. This green tire, which is still soft and uncured, is placed into a mold. Inside the mold, a bladder inflates with steam or hot air, pressing the rubber outward against the metal mold walls. Heat, usually around 150–180 degrees Celsius, vulcanizes the rubber. Vulcanization is a chemical process discovered by Charles Goodyear in 1839, where sulfur cross-links rubber molecules, transforming sticky raw rubber into a durable, elastic material. Here's the important part. As the tire expands into the mold, air trapped between the rubber and the mold needs somewhere to escape. If it doesn't, you get air pockets or bubbles in the finished tire. That would weaken the structure and ruin the appearance. So tire molds are designed with tiny vent holes. When the tire is pressed outward, small amounts of rubber squeeze into these microscopic vents. Once the tire cures and is removed from the mold, those little bits of hardened rubber remain attached. Those are the tiny nubs. They're officially called vent spews, or sometimes informally referred to as rubber whiskers. So, do they have a purpose? Short answer, not once the tire is finished. The nubs don't improve traction. They don't measure tread wear. They don't enhance performance. They're simply excess rubber that filled vent holes during the molding process. In fact, they wear off very quickly, often within the first few kilometers of driving. That's because they're thin and fragile. Regular contact with asphalt scrapes them away almost immediately. Some people assume the presence of nubs means a tire is brand new. While that's often true, it's not a reliable indicator. Tires stored for a long time can still have visible nubs. The better way to check a tire's age is by looking at the dot code stamped on the sidewall, which includes a 4-digit number indicating the week and year of manufacture. So if you were hoping those little spikes were doing something high-tech, sorry, Their job ended at the factory. Why don't manufacturers remove them? That's a fair question. If they're useless after production, why not trim them off? The main reason is practicality. There can be dozens, sometimes hundreds, of vent spews on a single tire. Removing them would require additional labor or automated trimming systems, increasing production time and cost. Since they pose no safety risk and disappear naturally, manufacturers simply leave them. It's more efficient and environmentally practical to let normal driving handle it. In high-end specialty tires, especially racing slicks, manufacturers sometimes do extra finishing work for aesthetic reasons. But for standard road tires, it's unnecessary. Over the years, several myths have popped up online. One claim suggests the Nubs improve grip during the first few drives. This isn't accurate. They're too small and too soft to meaningfully affect traction. Another myth says they help reduce noise. Again, false. Tire noise is influenced by tread design, rubber compound, and road surface, not tiny sidewall whiskers. Some even think cutting them off improves performance. It doesn't. Removing them early won't harm the tire, but it also won't make any difference. If anything, they're just a visible reminder of the precision manufacturing process behind every tire. So, what are those tiny nubs on new tires? They're simply leftover rubber from vent holes in the tire mold, small escape routes for trapped air during the curing process. They don't improve performance, they don't signal special features, and they won't last long once you start driving. But they do tell a story. They remind us that behind something as ordinary as a car tire lies more than a century of innovation, stretching back to inventors like John Boyd Dunlop and Charles Goodyear. They hint at the precision engineering required to shape rubber into something strong enough to carry tons of weight at high speeds. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Sometimes, the most ordinary-looking details, the tiny rubber hairs you barely notice, are quiet evidence of complex design and careful manufacturing. Next time you see them on a new set of tires, you'll know exactly what they are. Not a mystery, not a feature, just a small, harmless trace of how modern engineering works behind the scenes. And that's the history of a very simple thing. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.